how to play the classes' roles to their full potential. Let's start with the Gunner. Now keep in mind, we will be discussing classes in depth, but Gunner even more so, as there are so many things that I'd be able to explain here, and some of it will also be applicable to other classes. The Gunner class. The Gunner is the powerhouse of a class. It's the most complete kit in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, all classes have their strengths and weaknesses, but this class is almost the most complete class out there, and I'm going to tell you why. The Gunner is the best damage and support class at the same time. He's got the burst damage, built-in passives for damage buff, CC on demand, well, when it's not on cooldown at the very least. But if you play it right, you should have your nades and overclocks when needed. Only downside, you don't have consistent AoE in your kit apart from the grenade. You could go with the flamethrower in your CQW slot, however, then you will lack high or single target burst damage against specials or elites, which again, as mentioned in my previous video in the Ultimate Guide series, are CQWs such as SMGs and shotguns, especially shotguns, but not the flamethrower. But even though the Gunner lacks AoE, the class can still delete runners as fast as they can, one at a time, perhaps the fastest when it comes to that. The Gunner's most important job is to focus on specials and elites. Why? Let's briefly discuss about the abilities real quick, and along with some basic perks without going too much into detail with the perk grid or the builds itself. So first off, Overclock. Now keep in mind that we already have discussed highest single target DPS weapons, and the Gunner has access to one of them, CQWs, or shotguns. And we have also seen how much damage shotguns can do per shot to a full mag dump. Now add in Overclock on top of that. So what Overclock does is it gives the Gunner a 100% fire rate buff for a short duration, 100% reload speed, which gives you a huge burst DPS against elites. Versus specials.
Oh, I'm missing out on so much damage. Pick up ammo at the worst time.
And finally, for sticky situations. Overclock gives your team 100% fire rate buff too, so they get a huge DPS boost too, but not reload speed, at least not without a specific perk called Quickload interlink, which grants the fire team 50% reload speed. And guess what? If you take Quickload interlink, it automatically reloads your weapon when you hit Overclock. Boom. I seriously don't get it. Why so many people don't run it in their grid? Like, come on. If not for your teammates, then for yourself. Without Quickload interlink, you lose an instant reload. Burst damage. And if you don't take Quickload interlink, then you've spent a lot of your OC's duration in reloading your weapon. Whereas you could have instantly reloaded your weapon, not to mention that without it, your team's gonna waste a lot of time of the overclock duration reloading their weapons and miss out on a huge damage potential. But if you do end up taking it, which you always should, then this is the best way to use it. So the way you wanna use overclock is empty your mag and then overclock. Like so. for extra damage. That was a grab animation. And that was my butt cheeks getting clapped. And that's how you maximize CPS. But note, you want to engage with your CQW when they're like a little bit far away, and as soon as you're reaching to the end of your magazine, you want to grenade for CC, overclock, start shooting real quick, mag dump, and then when you're about to reload again, detonate your remote detonator, which you've already stuck on the elite, for a second knockdown while you're reloading, so that buys you more time to like reload when they're like knocked down for the second time. And so you want to engage earlier with your shotgun. You don't want them to be like point blank when you overclock, so you want to time it in a way that you start shooting when they're a little bit far away and your mag is empty as soon as they're in like the sweet spot range or distance from you to overclock safely. Now, this guide is supposed to be the ultimate guide, and we will try our best to not miss on anything. So using any CQW that has a single mag reload, such as the Type 21 tactical shotgun, or the Type 76 auto shotgun, or the SMGs in general, as well as rifles in general, if you're already in the animation of the reload and hit overclock, it does not automatically reload your weapon, nor does it give the fast reload. That off, the overclock. So you need to keep an eye on the mag as soon as you hit 0 on the counter, or a bit sooner. Hit overclock to counter that. Now I don't know if it's intentional or if it's bugged, but it is what it is. Gunner playstyle. As a gunner, you need to be the point man, sticking to your side of choice, preferably on the left in case of sudden or surprise encounters. You need to be very aggressive as a gunner. Think about it as a proactive approach playstyle. Keep an eye on the radar at all times and keep OC and grenades in mind. As soon as you see the special spawn on the map, such as a burster, prowler, or a spitter, if you feel your team can't deal with them without your help, or if they are already overwhelmed, it is your job to keep your teammates safe from or backed up from the specials. However, keep in mind that you should only use the overclock or the grenade, not both of them at the same time, as you may end up panicking and using both of them and then have nothing to deal with an elite that spawns or anything of the sorts. Unless you're already aware of the spawns, then by all means use them as per your convenience. In fact, sometimes the elite isn't even the problem, but the huge horde that comes with it. And like already mentioned above, the gunner, if it comes down to taking out runners one by one, the gunner's the fastest. And using overclock and the grenade to keep your team in the fight is worth it, when they can quickly get rid of the horde, especially if there are specials and in a big number. Not to mention the spitters that keep sniping you and make it really hard to deal with the bigger threats. Thus, I would say using the abilities to quickly deal with the spitters is worth it in the end in these situations. Especially you being the gunner, you should rush the spitters. If you need an overclock, go for it. If you need a grenade, go for it. Melt down those spitters, and dealing with everything else, if you're dealing with them as a team, like specials and other elites, should be a piece of cake. But on second thoughts, you can just shoot a prowler, just looking to pounce on your teammate, or the spitter about to spit, or an elite who's about to grab your buddy, who's below threshold HP for some reason and might get executed, so you can stun them. Yes, you can stun them to buy your teammate enough time to deal with it. So you stun them using your weapon. Yes, you heard that right. Your weapon. Another perk that the gunner has access to is called Overwhelming Fire, which is... So basically, you need 5 stacks on the target to stun it. So you can just simply use your shotgun to stun the target with a single shot. Yes, the shotguns are amazing with this perk, as it instantly procs the overwhelming fire stun as each pellet counts towards the stack as an individual. This effect only works for the same target every 30 seconds, but who cares, the target would be dead anyways. However, once stunned, and hate to say it again, with the right build and weapons and setup, that one stun should be more than enough to kill the target, be it a runner or even a prowler or a burster. And at the end, use the overclock and the grenade in an oh shit situation, as it will be back very soon if you're running targets acquired. Now, targets acquired
2-for-1.
will give you all the cooldowns that you need for your abilities. Now, what you should do is look to use your rifle for long to medium range. Even at close range, if it's just a runner or two, or if the number of enemies are within your comfort zone. However, the moment it gets uncomfortable, or you see specials or elite spawn, and as soon as they're in range, and you or the gunner on the team hits overclock, always, and I mean always, use your CQW. Or pistols in some cases.
Further out you are, the harder I can cover you.
Doesn't mean you'll use your CQW from miles away. You need to position for it. Either get close to the target or let it come to you if it can. Unless it's for spitters. Now, you can get into spitters' faces and burst them down. Like so.
Really?
On the spitter. Dead. Prowler.
However, if you can't do that and there's too many things going on, then you have to use your rifles, which would be fine in this scenario. A gunner or any class with CQWs can still clear runners fairly quickly when it comes to close quarter combat. All you need is enough accuracy, not too much, because that can also be detrimental. So if that CQW's already hit breakpoints or one-tap runners with enough accuracy, fire rate, and reload, you will mop and clear it all pretty quick. Now, when it comes to the gunner's grenades, Disorienting Blast
Ow. Ow. He's gonna kill me.
is a must-have perk on the grenade. It knocks everything down within the grenade's explosion radius. It is very strong form of CC. Starting off with the default nade. It's still decent in damage when thrown. It bounces off of objects, as well as one of the noticeable downside is that it detonates after a slight delay, which could mean a lot in this fast-paced shooter. As well as if it's thrown in the wrong direction or at the wrong target, you might miss the target completely, and due to the delay, the nade may go off LV 426 and hit nothing. Remote detonator. Whereas with the remote detonator, if you end up missing your target with a direct hit, you may trigger and blow it up yourself close to the target even without a direct hit. But when you do end up hitting your target, you now have 2 stuns, knockdowns. The initial hit as well as the detonation both proc Disorienting Blast, where the detonation can take place at your command with the trigger without interrupting your current animation, which is shooting. The remote detonator, being the most powerful of them all, has a bigger radius, higher damage, and provides a CC chain. Use it on every opportunity that you can get, where you can blow up a huge pack of runners grouped to each other. You may even time it and airburst it.
Watch out, burst coming.
Push him back.
Conserve ammo, keeps you and your team from getting overwhelmed and happy. Like, obviously you need to learn the maps for that. No matter what class, have an imaginary line in front of you, and if too many targets cross that line, unless you can kill them fast enough, nuke him with the grenade. Don't worry about losing your CC, as you always have other classes on the team with other sorts of CC if everything fails. Cryo it.
I was like, I don't have an overclock and it's wave 5, we already
Mini
cryo it,
grenades.
so why not just
This mod is a weaker version, does less damage as well as it's got a smaller radius, but it's a very forgiving mod. This gives you more margin of error. It's a brilliant form of CC on demand. Unless you're just spamming it and didn't pay any attention to anything I just said so far in the video, then this should be almost always be up when needed.
He's doing the cryo.
I got it.
Incendiary Grenade. Well, this mod has the shortest cooldown and decent range. That's a downside. It only affects targets in front of you, and as it is not throwable, thus you wouldn't be able to help your teammate range if they need a quick clear of enemies surrounding them or a grapple interrupt. And for the builds now, we wouldn't be going into any weapon discussion here, as so many people have already put out a ton of build videos, myself included. So if you're looking for any build videos,
Yep, pushing back.
please refer to the links to all of my gunner builds in the video description below.
Yeah, I managed to push everything back, which is good.
Warrior coming in.
Get it. There's a spitter.